My name is Marcus Brown. This is Kyle Norman. He's going to jump in and correct everything that I say that's incorrect. And we're going to talk about what's new in Markforged 2022. It's not like SolidWorks and Mastercam where there's kind of a one major release. It's constantly trickling in. So I just thought it was a good title to say what's new in 2022. But really it's what's changed in the last year or so since we've done an update like this. So let's cruise through this presentation. We're going to be covering three major topics: the printers and what they do for you, the materials on those printers, and then the software updates and software changes that we've seen coming down the line. We're not going to be covering a lot of the existing capabilities. So for example, if you're wanting to know just the general usage cases for Onyx materials, we've got content for that elsewhere. We're going to talk about the changes, what's been done that's new, and new information. But we've got a lot of content on these other various things. So let me first start with just introducing the four categories of printers that Markforged makes. So we'll start with the desktop series. Now the desktop series is not new. It was their first printer that they made. Three different flavors. Desktop is a perfect thing. You know, if you're going to get a new engineer, a new employee, you give them a laptop, you give them a desk and a chair, and you want to give them a desktop printer to be able to do prototypes and everything else on. It's perfect for one or a handful of people, perfect for a shop that has maybe a handful of machine tools or something. It's like just the most compact, awesome thing ever. I have one of these and I love it. The next category up is the industrial series. Again, we're not really seeing any new printers, but in both of these cases, we're seeing new materials, new print options. They're continuously expanding the capabilities of the machines. And they have a new X7 Field Edition, which is pretty slick. We'll talk about that. But the reason you would jump to an industrial series usually is because you have more throughput. You have a larger department. You've got a lot of people sharing it. You're trying to share it as a resource. The industrial series gives you a lot more size and throughput. Now, the FX20 is brand new, completely new. We're going to cover that in more detail in a minute. But it's way bigger, hotter, faster, smarter. It's got more advanced materials, new technology, crazy finish. It's the bee's knees. We'll talk about that in a second. And the Metal X, the big changes on the Metal X, besides a lot of process changes in the background, is the addition of a Center 2. We'll talk about that in a second and some of the improvements to those process parameters when we get to some of the materials in the software. But if we dig a little bit deeper into those two new things, the X7 Field Edition, it's an X7 printer, an industrial printer that just comes prepackaged in a Pelican case. And it's literally designed for military, right? Military readiness. I want to be able to put this in a truck, take it wherever, pop it out, and in, 3 minutes?
3 minutes. So the design parameters that were given to Markforged was, we want to be able to drop this out of an airplane, and we need to be up and printing apart in 3 minutes.
So it's got, pre-cut foam. It's got space for materials, spare parts, tools, all that kind of fun stuff, which obviously the military wants it. They asked for it. They spec'd it out. But we could see a lot of people that are doing field service, field implementations, things like that could really benefit from this type of a form factor for an X7 composite printer. So it's a pretty slick one. The next one is the Center 2. The Center 2 has a much larger volume. So if you're printing anything in metal with the Center 1, you were limited to about the size of a loaf of bread. So any part bigger than that wouldn't fit in the oven. The Center 2 eliminates those restrictions, gives you a huge volume for really large parts or for a large number of small parts. If you can see those shelves down there on the center plate, is going to give you lots of real estate to put in parts and solidify those. And the center ovens themselves also got a big upgrade in terms of the process parameters, right? Aren't they capable of going much faster now?
Yeah, so we introduced some speed in the metal system itself, right? So not just the printer, but we introduced Express Center. So a quick center on a smaller volume of a part, so you can center a part in about half the time. So it's getting better, smarter. We have annealing capabilities now. So some really neat introductions on the center oven furnaces themselves.
Yeah, so it's the same furnaces as always. A new option for bigger ones, but we're able to just push them harder or be more confident in our predictions and cut the amount of time it takes to fully center and solidify these parts.
Yeah, and so the biggest thing behind that center too was the ability to center the entire volume of the printer itself. And so that center furnace actually comes with two different sets of center plates. So the one you see there for multiple or many smaller parts, and then it comes with a single plate for centering those really large pieces and parts.
Yeah. So if you've got a lot of metal throughput you need, you could grab several metal printers and then have them all feed a single center oven in large batches.
Yeah.
For the materials, new material options available to us. Materials are always broken down into three categories. So you got the thermoplastics. Thermoplastics is the basic for any composite part. For a new type of material, a new type of thermoplastic is called precise PLA. For anybody doing 3D printing, you know what PLA is. We'll talk about how the Markforged spin on that. The nylon-based materials like onyx, the new advancement there is the FRA, which we also have an FR carbon fiber. So if you combine the carbon fiber FR, which is flame retardant, with the onyx FRA, which is the aerospace traceability flame retardant material, you have basically a ready-made kit to go build aerospace components. You're off to the races. And we've got several customers right now, one specifically that's really leading the way in aerospace with respect to these printers, right?
Correct. Yeah, we have a customer that has many applications approved for in-flight use today. And probably the most exciting thing that came out of that was FAA approval of the Onyx FRA material. So that material has received that FAA approval, just like anybody in aerospace would know that the Ultim 9085 has had that FAA approval. So really exciting for us.
Yeah, aerospace is just a really juicy area for this because unlike a lot of markets, you're not dealing with hundreds of thousands of pieces. You may only need a couple dozen of an individual part. And so we're seeing aerospace companies going full additive for entire product lines and having great success with it. So the 9085 filament, we'll talk about that with the FX20, but that's a brand new material, and specifically the FX20 was designed to be able to support it. And then with the Metal X, the material library has not changed. What has changed, though, is a new Metal X printer, right? That it's got the touchscreen on the outside. It prints a little faster. Has some more smarts inside of it, and intelligence to help you to avoid things that might create problems. And we're seeing a lot of new print settings to be able to create really fine detail, to create open sparse fill on those metal parts. So metal just continues to move along and create more advanced and more capable solutions. Precise PLA, let's go dig fully into this one. I've actually got one of these parts here. And this is an example of it. The PLA, everyone should be familiar with PLA. It's just a low-cost material. And the reason it was created was specifically because people said, hey, I want something with a little bit of color in it for things like categorizing parts into different service types or for safety purposes, right? You want something really visible, want something lower cost. And I want something that I don't feel bad about throwing it away. And so the spools and the materials are compostable. And this PLA material is going to give you a really nice part with the same tolerances and the same surface finish that you expect and the same digital forge platforms. You don't have to switch platforms, but at a much lower cost. So the compatibility on the printers, Kyle, talk a little bit about that. It's Gen 2 extruders only, right?
Yeah, that's right. So approximately, I guess it was about 18 months ago, we went to the Gen 2 extruders across the board. So it's the PLA is only going to be compatible with the Gen 2 machines. So it's likely if you still have a Gen 1, most likely that machine's at capacity as it is anyway. So we probably need to have a conversation about adding potentially adding a Gen 2 machine to your fleet. There is no upgrade package for the desktop machine, just due to the fact that everything is just so incompatible. At the industrial level, we do have a upgrade available. So if you have a Gen 1 industrial machine that you're interested in running PLA, definitely reach out to me. We can talk about what it's going to take to get that machine upgraded to a Gen 2 to enable that PLA. The industrial PLA for the industrial is probably not going to be enabled till they're predicting probably somewhere between that July to September window. So in Q3 at some point, we'll see that open up on the industrial, but it's coming. It is enabled today for the desktop Gen 2. It's enabled for the Mark II and the Onyx Pro only.
Yeah, so you're definitely going to be able to take advantage of that very quickly. If you've had your machine for 18 months and you're not fully utilizing it, I can't imagine why you're not fully loaded up on that thing. A couple quick best practices to keep in mind. PLA, one of the reasons it's so common in 3D printing is because it has a lower melting temperature. So you do need to clear the onyx, the higher temperature onyx, out of the extruder before you switch over. And adhesion is a little bit more finicky with PLA. So if you guys have an industrial or a composite printer for Markforged and you sort of say, hey, I don't need to wash and glue my bed every time, I can do it every handful of prints, for the PLA, you'll definitely want to utilize that.
And so we're also, we've got a specialized tool for cleaning that, the old onyx out of that print head too. So that'll be something you'll want to pick up with your first order of PLA.
Yeah, and there's a utility that walks you through the whole process so you know how to do it. So next, let's talk about the FX20 and the Ultem 9085 filament. And they go hand in hand specifically because the FX20 was built to handle the 9085 material. The FX20 is huge. This thing is a 3-phase power beast. It's so big you can put a desktop printer inside the print envelope of the FX20. It's absolutely huge. It makes ridiculously large parts, super high quality. So the chamber is heated. It's a very, very hot chamber, which means you control when the parts cool and solidify and how they solidify. And at no point during the process do they cool down more than they should, which means we can have razor thin precision on the finish. And it creates a part that is absolutely, you'll never see it. It's unmatched in terms of FFF printing capabilities. Nobody's going to be able to create a part that looks this good. And in order to make those huge parts, they've got spools, 4 spool holders, and the spools are 4 times bigger, so larger spools. It prints much, much faster. It's got way more smarts. And Kyle, you saw one of these FX20 9085 parts. Was it 9085 or was it Onyx, the one you saw? Do you remember?
So they actually had both. So I've seen some parts that were the volume of the print in both of the Ultem 9085 and then in our standard Onyx. So like you said, they have, because of the volume, they have released 3,200 cc spools of material that will allow you to just absolutely print material just crazy fast. So yeah, I've seen these parts and they are absolutely impressive. Absolutely. I wasn't able to sneak one out under my shirt because it was just so gargantuan.
Yeah,
But I tried.
It's going to be hard to overstate this one, but we are going to reserve going too crazy till we actually get our hands on one and we can give you our personal observations. The 9085 filament is extremely high temperature, has excellent flame, smoke, and toxicity ratings, V0 ratings, so that you can use it in aerospace. And unlike the Onyx, which just has tearaway supports, there is a dedicated release material for the 9085. My assumption is so it creates a much cleaner release, and because the 9085 is such a strong material that adding that additional release in there makes it easier to operate. And it uses a print paper, so a bed paper, so it's kind of a vacuum held paper on the print bed, meaning at the end of the print, you don't have to take the bed off or scrape it off or anything else. You just pick it up and peel the paper away. So it's going to be a very high production, easy to use printer.
But let's note that paper, so technically it's not paper, is reusable. So our competitor in this space has literally a print bed piece that has to be replaced every time. We don't have the history on this to know exactly how long they last, but if we put it this way, the alpha machines have been printing for over a year on the same sheet. So it's not theoretically a consumable that has to be replaced every day.
So it's not just a whole bunch of replaceable components being consumed in this thing. So
right.
Awesome. So new machines, new materials. The software, though, is kind of that third rail. And this is really what sets Markforged apart. It's a software-based company, right? You're constantly getting new capabilities in any piece of hardware or computer technology that you have. And because it is a software-first focused company, the same hardware can continue to get faster, better, more high quality as you go. So some of the new improvements, this isn't brand new, but the ISO 27001 certification, we're talking military grade security on the cloud-based software. So a lot of times people say, well, cloud-based, I don't want anything on the cloud. With this certification, what they've proven and what you can expect is three major things. Your data is safe from theft. Nobody's going to be able to get a hold of it. I can't see it. Markforged can't see it. No one's going to be able to hack your account. It's safe. It's also safe and secure in terms of not being lost. If you put your files up there, they will stay there and they will not get lost no matter what happens at the data center or anywhere else. And the third one, and this is the big one I think a lot of people are afraid of with software as a service, is you can confirm that the uptime is going to be awesome, the performance is going to be awesome, and your data is accessible at all times no matter where you are. So and that's been our experience too. The cloud software is absolutely awesome, really easy to use. There are people that either don't have internet access or because of security reasons have to go completely offline and cannot be connected to the internet at all. Now, that's not for people that have bad internet. So if you have internet that just tends to go out for an hour at a time during the day, you can still use the cloud version of Eiger. The prints are always going to load to the storage of the machine before they start. So it's not like, you lose connection halfway through of a download and then you got to restart the download. In this case, it's going to first pull the build file to the printer, and then it'll print online or off until it's done. You're never going to have any interruptions. But that offline Eiger, this is kind of a retooled version of the offline Eiger, right? How does it work on the back end, Kyle?
Yeah, so it is absolutely retooled. So they went into this with the realization that the cloud-based version was, in essence, amazing. It's a great piece of software, and everybody that didn't have the ability to be able to use the cloud was missing out. So what they did was they completely retooled it from the ground up. So the offline version is now crazy similar to the cloud-based version. But not only that, all active subscription people get what we call the LAN connector, so that local area network connector. What's going to happen is when that is loaded behind your firewall, we now have offline Eiger that does not touch the outside world, but operates like the cloud version on your local area network, behind your firewall. So what does that mean? That means you can go anywhere within your plant and access Eiger, access your prints, monitor what's going on with your print, all there on your local area network. So we're super excited about that. And all of our offline Eiger customers are just super thrilled about the way it's working now. It's so much better.
Yeah, it's the benefits of cloud with an air gap implementation. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Another piece of software that's coming is Eiger Fleet. And this is something that you may not take advantage of right now, but it's nice to know that as you scale up your usage, if you get to the point where you say, okay, I want a desktop printer in every small department. I want industrial printers or an FX20 or a Metal X at some of our major manufacturing centers. And we get to the point where we have effectively a global network of printing, a distributed manufacturing system. Eiger Fleet will allow you to control it all with enterprise level controls. So you got granular security for users and groups. You can set up specific workflows. It has an open API, so you can automate it and connect it to your other business systems. But the big thing is it's going to connect your scattered teams and equipment to create a single unified sort of enterprise on the cloud that then can manage and monitor and report on your entire organization. So it's definitely something to be able to grow into.
Yeah, and ultimately, this is the version that will introduce granular security. So what we'll be able to do is begin to disallow people from a certain access, right? So more like a traditional data management system, so that we can kind of manage our level of user. That's going to be a really neat feature that a lot of customers are looking for.
And then we've got some really crazy technology. One of them is already out, and one of them we know is coming. So the one that's already out is Blacksmith, which is laser inspection of your parts in process as they're going. And what that allows you to do is say, okay, I'm going to print this, and when it's done, I want to know that the quality is already built in. I want to know that the quality inspection process is already done. I don't want to make it a serial process that requires additional time, labor, equipment, etc. So Blacksmith scans it as you go, gives you a quality report, and so the moment you pull it off the print bed, it's qualified and ready. The other thing that we know is coming is Teton simulation. They make a product called Smart Slice. They were acquired by Markforged. That's why we know it's coming, because they literally are now partnered up, and their Smart Slice technology specifically deals with additive composite failure mechanisms and failure predictions. So it's a really, really powerful tool for checking for strength, but it doesn't require an analyst, and it doesn't require days or even hours of work to run. The way we understand they plan to implement it is you can say, hey, will this hold 500 pounds? And it'll tell you yes or no, or hey, why don't you do this? It'll save you some material. Or why don't you reinforce it here, thicken it over there? That's going to really make you a more efficient part. And those kinds of things can be generated in about 30 seconds from the cloud. So imagine have a part design. You're like, I think this will work, but I need it to hold the weight. I don't want to have to iterate, and I don't want to have to mess with quality control. Turn on Blacksmith, run it through Smart Slice, and in theory, you'll have a part that's going to perform every time, and you know it's good to go right off the bed. So some really cool, powerful technologies coming on the software side, which brings me to talk about what's next. And this is based on what they've done, what they say they want to do next, and just kind of where we see things going. there's always going to be new updates. The printers are software focused so that any new changes, any new ideas, any new process parameters that prove better are going to be pushed constantly to the machines. But you're also going to expect to see new software capabilities like that Smart Slice technology that'll help you to solve problems in completely unique ways. Some of them are going to be kind of groundbreaking in the industry. We do expect new materials. There is obviously somebody said, well, I want the cost effectiveness of PLA, but I want the accuracy and ease of use of the Digital Forge and Markforged. So they introduced PLA with 8 colors. They introduced the traceability for aerospace. Next, we're hoping to see maybe an elastomer. We're hoping to see potentially new types of metals or new alloys, new polymers. We're not really sure exactly where it's going, but we know that people keep pushing for specific applications that are going to require some new materials. And then as far as the printers go, this is not like the iPhone where you're going to have the iPhone 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and every time you got to buy a new one. They're going to continue to maintain support for older platforms. The new devices, the new printers are going to be there to expand the envelope of what we can do, address new types of challenges, whether that's new levels of accuracy, strength, production capacity, you name it. So expect to see some new printers coming in the future, but they're not just going to be replays of the old ones. The existing technology is going to be upgraded through software to handle what's coming next. And that's our show, guys. We'll pause here for questions. See if anybody has anything. Feel free to contact us.